On today's video, we're going to talk about racing springs and what it takes to make a good spring. Welcome back. On this video, we're going to discuss springs, but before we get started, let's talk about a little business here. I need you guys to subscribe to our channel, like and comment. So in this video, comment what springs you use. Comment why you like those springs, okay? So today's video, we're going to talk about springs, okay? Springs are, it's going to be a touchy subject. Springs are either performance or profit. That's your choice. That's how they're made. The quality of a spring is going to be started in the design process of the spring. It's not anywhere else. It's the quality of the material, the diameter of the material, the diameter of the spring, the number of coils, the process that goes into it. It's a spring pre-treated, shot peen, heat treated, preloaded, preset. Is it? If it's not, these are processes, and these processes create cost. Okay, and cost just raises the retail price up. But in order to have a good spring, we go back in time, sometime in the 30s, the Spring Institution of America was formed. And this unit decided to, make a quality spring. We were all over the place with spring manufacturing here in the United States, and they decided that we needed some unity. So they created this. Sometime in the past, they created software to produce a spring, and it is very good software. But in that software will put out what they call spring life, okay? And it's in the software. So you put in all your parameters, what you want, your spring to be made of, how you're going to do it, how you're going to grind it, and the processes. And then it puts out generate a spring drawing for you and a spring life. Okay, if your spring was below 80, then it was junk. Okay, and what that 80 represented was 80% of the spring life. I don't know that it was exactly percent. It was a number. It's 80% of the spring needs to be left after 1,000,000 life strokes. Okay, and 1,000,000 life strokes may be that, and it may be this, that. So it may be up, down, one stroke, not just down 1, 2, 3, 4, but one. Okay. Spring companies, bigger spring companies have testing devices that they do durability testing on. Companies do durability testing to see the life of a spring. A lot of companies want a durability test to run for 6 months. This is pushing that spring in and out, maybe once every second, every 2 seconds. A lot of times it'll be to compressed height or block height, which is almost solid. Okay. That's when you preset a spring, you take it to block height 3 times, and this presets the spring. The spring shrinks a little in them 3 compressions right off the bat. Okay. Some companies now are not presetting their springs, and they'll tell you, 2 weeks after you race your springs, you have to reset your ride heights. It's because they didn't preset them, because they're trying to save themselves money. Okay. Springs and the cost of springs are a very funny thing. And the more springs you make, the cheaper they get to make. So all the time's in the setup. This is where I struggle as a small springs manufacturer. And some of the stuff that's happening in the spring market right now is hurting us because we can't keep up with it. Okay, we can't stock all this stuff on the shelves for no reason. So we're going to build quality springs that can race well, that we need. We're not going to sell you a bunch of stuff, because honestly, I can't afford to build it all, put it on the shelf just to try to sell it to you. I'm not that good a salesman. Okay. But we've done some stuff. We have some very good springs. But spring life is You put any brand of spring in a car and I feel like it comes to life. How long does it last? That's the trick. And I believe that our spring life in our racing springs is very low in the general market. Okay, when we designed our springs, the guy that did it worked very hard at getting them at 90 and above. And I think we see that in our springs. Other companies have come up in quality of material with their springs. So that's a good thing for the market, and it's a good thing. It's maybe not for us, but in general, it's a good thing because we need a better quality spring. But we need a spring that's preset, heat treated, shot peen. The shot peen ball size changes the longevity of the spring. Okay. When I was learning about springs, first thing I learned was the best springs to race on. The springs that had the most performance were German made springs. Some of them are not in our racing, they're more in a street application. They're not in our racing, in our dirt racing world, but they are the ones that had the highest quality of performance. And we had, the advantage to put some on a late model one time, some Vogelin springs or Votlin, depending on how you pronounce it. Very good. It was very good to us. I mean, we raced very well with them springs on. And when we took them off, we changed them with another popular brand, and we raced very bad. And then we went back to them springs, and we began to race very good. So, spring performance is something that's there. In the dirt market, we're lacking a lot of performance. We're replacing it with profitability. Okay. So currently, I feel like there's more, we know there's more to learn than we know. We know very little about springs. And the one thing we do know is we compress it 1 inch, clear it, compress it another inch, and we call this testing a spring. That's junk. That is no way. You can't test a spring to see the quality. Okay? Some companies say their springs will never lose rate. And the reason that is because it's mathematical. It's the number of coils, it's the wire diameter, it's the material. This creates a spring rate. Okay? So you would have to physically change the wire diameter to change the rate. So you can 1 inch it all day long and get a number, and they're not going to listen. They're never going to replace the spring because they say the spring rate can't change. It's a physical product of the spring. Okay. You and me both know when you put new springs in, the car responds to it. Some springs will last a month, 2 months, 3 months, half season. Okay. We would like our springs to race for a season. At the end of the season, you need to probably sell them springs off, get new springs. Okay. So again, we know very little about springs. We rate every spring, and I'll try to put it in the end of this video. We rate every spring that we sell. Have from day one, we've up to 10,000. I said, we're not a large spring manufacturer. Yeah, I wished we were. I wish, we got a very good spring. It races very well, but we're just not the popular brand. Okay. And I'll put a video in how we're checking springs. We rate every spring. We check it for free height. At first, we checked it for, kind of like a load stick. At first, we checked it for a physical height measurement, 9 inches, 500 thousandths. We have digital height gauge that we put the springs in, check the spring, okay? But it took time. It was a slow process between checking them, documenting them, rating them and documenting them, unboxing them, and then getting everything serialized, getting the boxes serialized. It was kind of a slow process. So now we check them with CNC, and we can check them faster than we can box them. So kind of a cool deal. It goes right onto the computer. Every spring we sell is documented. It's on the internet. I did break them up into 1,000, number blocks. So it's easier. You don't have to search through hundreds of pages to get to the 9,000s. It's crazy. So I broke them up. You can find, what series number you're in and go to it. But has now, it has a free height and a rate. Okay. If our rate vary, and I'll explain why, but if our rate vary, I put in there what 1 inch, 1 inch. Okay. If we test the spring differently, if we load to a 1 inch, then I put that in there what it is. Okay. If we free height, then we start free heighting for a measurement. So if it was a 10-inch spring or a 13-inch spring, we checked it at 12,900 and it created a poundage number, or 12,800, one of the two, and it creates a poundage number, 25 pounds, 54 pounds. Okay, and then we rated it 1 inch, 1 inch, and then got a number. So we've quit using a inch number to represent the height of the free height of the spring, and we are using a poundage number. Okay, it's much faster for us to do that, and that poundage number is that given, and it's in the catalog, it's in the book, so you can find it. Springs, we need them. We need to get rid of them. Okay, they don't last forever. Throw them away. You're better off racing on new springs of any brand. If you decide to, here's the deal. It's not cheaper to buy a cheap spring, because to buy a cheap spring means you got to buy more of them more often. Okay, if you're going to run certain brands of springs, then you might need to buy 4 or 5 sets. And you might put it on your calendar when you're going to change it. When that day rolls around, put new springs in. I don't care what you think you got 2 nights on them. Or, I just got 2 nights on this spring. 5 springs on the car, go away, 5 new ones come in. That's the only way you can keep up with it. Mike Harris taught us that. He told me one time, he says, I got a whole room full of springs, but he did it for a reason, and the reason was it's kept his car fast. I hope he still does that today. It was a good practice for him, and I think it was something he really needed to do. I think they needed to do it because of what they were doing. I think they really needed to do it. I'm not promoting. I feel like you can race our springs, and you can easily get a season out of them. I see where some guys will replace their springs mid-season, and most of the time, guys don't replace them more often than that, but mid-season. And I see a lot of guys that are in their second, third season. Hey, I don't necessarily recommend that, but that's where we're at. I do think we can get a good year out of them, but we should let them go. Give them to somebody else that just flat out can't afford to have something nice. Sell them springs, sell them at half price, then your new springs only cost you half as much. And your own fresh stuff. So springs, again, I'm going to say it, we know less than what we need to know. And the reason I told you earlier, like our rating versus our manufacturer's rating is sometimes a little different because he rates from block up. And our tolerance says 80% of the spring travel has to be within 2% of the spring rate. Okay, well, from full compress up often gets us right at that 2-inch mark where we're 1 inch, 2 inch. Okay, so we're racing in the top part of the spring, which is actually the worst part of the spring, but that's where we race at in a lot of classes. Some worse than other, but that's where we race. So springs, a deep, deep, deep subject, probably deeper than shocks. There's more to spring manufacturing that we're going to never know. And there's tricks to building springs that we're never going to understand or know. And some of them are bad for our race cars. And they do happen on springs. Okay. And, we tried, between me and the guy that builds Richard, we try to monitor that doesn't happen to our springs. Now, if we got into building a lot of springs, every spring company is going to have an issue at some point. So don't be down on them too hard. Like if you had a spring that went bad. Okay. Springs are a tricky deal. They're not the easiest thing in the world. But in general, they go good. And then sometimes they don't. Okay. Again, I'm going to say it. There's more we don't know than we do know. So we need to learn. So comment what spring you're running, what rates you're running. Help educate other people. Tell us why you like your springs. Tell us what you don't like about your springs. Okay? As always, go fast. Go left. God bless you all.